Good morning. My name is Wanda Minnings, and I am the chair of the Corporate Services Committee. It's 9 a.m., and I would like to call this meeting to order. We are going to begin our meeting today with the Township's land acknowledgement that was developed with Chief Ted Williams. At the Township of Severn, we recognize the following land acknowledgement. And we would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather and which the Township of Severn operates is part of the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe. For thousands of years, Indigenous people have been inhabiting and caring for this land. In particular, we acknowledge the territory of the Ojibwe or Chippewas people. This territory is covered by the Lake Simcoe Treaty 16 and the J. Collins Land Purchase. We are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land, and by doing so, give our respect to its first inhabitants. As you know, each year, September 30th marks the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation in honor of the children who never returned home and survivors of residential schools, as well as their families and communities. September 30th also marks Orange Shirt Day, an Indigenous-led grassroots commemorative day intended to raise awareness of the individual, family, and community intergenerational impacts of residential schools and promotes the concept of Every Child Matters. You are invited to join us, council and staff, here at the Township office this Friday, September 27th at 9 a.m. for a flag-raising ceremony with Chief Williams. We will be wearing orange shirts as a symbol of the stripping away of culture, freedom, and self-esteem experienced by Indigenous children over generations, and we invite you to do the same. Details of the flag-raising ceremony on Friday are on the Township website at severn.ca. I now ask that we stand for a quiet moment of reflection. Thank you. Okay, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest today? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to agenda item C. We have 3 delegations to council this morning. Welcome. Please be advised that in accordance with council's procedural bylaw, no decision will be made at our meeting today regarding your delegations. The committee will do one of the following. We will refer the matter to staff for a report, or we will refer the matter to future budget deliberations, or take no action. So first, I would like to welcome Nancy and Ellen Croft to come up and speak to us. The floor is yours. Good morning. If you can get settled at the microphone, thank you. And you will be speaking to us on short-term rentals and good neighbor bylaws. Thank you.
Yes. In 2021, the former council decided to strengthen the township's good neighbor bylaw. Noise, parking, property standards, littering, clean and clear, and fireworks and burning. We would really like them to be strengthened more, because when you live next to a short-term rental, they don't care about a small fine or a telling off or a notice on the door. It means nothing to them because they're making so much money. So it'd be nice to see it strengthened so the fines were harder. They were taken to account more than they are at the moment. One saying thing?
Yeah, I'm not here to talk about short-term rental. I'm just here to talk about one particular property, which is my next door neighbor. He's virtually a slumlord, and he's been able to operate with probably not anything to count revenue, probably not any tax on it, but he fills the place up. Split the neighborhood, wages the community. Some of them are traumatic experiences, won't stay at the weekends. And yet, I know that the young girl was closed down for trying to start a dog grooming business, which is going to benefit the community. Yet this person, straight up from Toronto, no ties to Severn, is just getting away with what he's doing, and it's someone has to stop him.
For 4 years.
So how can he still operate? I don't know how much money he's making, but he's just filling it up 15, 20 people. So if you want to know how this can still go on, that's all I got to say.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to speak to?
Pretty much just what Alan just said, and to make it tougher for him to do it and get away with it. $100 fine is a drop in the bucket. It doesn't mean anything, even if he gets a fine. You know, it's got to be everything that whatever you do has got to be more. Like a set system for fines. Eliminate warnings would be a good idea. For repeat offences, fine all the offending individuals and the property owner, the people that are renting it and the person that owns that property. And require everyone to follow a good neighbour bylaw. They won't. That's about it.
Okay, thank you very much for coming in this morning and for your presentation. Committee members, do you have any questions? Member Cox?
Yeah, thank you very much. Through the chair to the clerk, can we relook at that good neighbor policy, or can we strengthen it, or is there something we could be looking at?
Through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. Staff can look at the good neighbor bylaws and bring forward to council any strengthening and improvements on the penalty sections, as well as just enhancements to more enforcement clauses in general and prohibition clauses. Further, just so council is aware, we are working on enhancing and improving our general bylaw enforcement policy that will allow us to proactively deal with repeat offenders, in particular, after a certain number of complaints have been received with respect to the property. It's a similar structure to what Aurelia adopted about a year ago. So we are looking to bring that policy forward to October corporate services, which will be a first step. And then absolutely over the fall and winter, we can look at the various bylaws upon council's direction.
Okay, thank you. Supplemental. So I think that would be a good place to start. And I'm glad that you are upgrading the rest of the bylaws, and we have the 2 bylaw enforcement people now. Thank you.
Member Taylor.
Through the chair to Allison. Allison, could you give a recap of have there been charges laid and have there been convictions at the neighbors to these people?
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, I cannot talk about open bylaw enforcement matters. If you wanted to proceed into a closed session, I can give you an update on that within closed, but I cannot give you an update in open session about active enforcement matters. But in general terms, I can say following council's direction earlier this year, staff have been proactively monitoring the property all summer.
Then I requested a future meeting, an in-camera meeting. I'd like to get an update for myself to see what's going on, if that's okay. The second thing, in the report, there's some comments written by Gord Knox, a retired planner. And on page 12 in our agenda, he makes 2 statements here that he says there's 2 ways of concluding that short-term rentals are not permitted in shoreline residential zones. One, short-term rentals are not permitted because they are not specifically listed as a permitted use, and so they are prohibited. And secondly, he says, short-term rentals are not permitted because they are a form of commercial accommodation, and this use is specifically not included in shoreline residential, but is permitted in other commercial zones. So that's part 1. And part 2, on page 15, he closes with 2 conclusions that he quotes here that are irrefutable to him. And one, short-term rentals of dwelling units are commercial land uses and not residential, and therefore not a permitted use as being listed or otherwise in low-density residential zones. And secondly, in his opinion, short-term rentals have no place or right next to traditional single detached dwellings, such as the home, for what the matter, the rest of the homes in the township of Severn. And as a final note, these uses have always been illegal and not permitted, and any argument of being legal non-conforming uses simply do not apply. So he's saying here, to remove any doubt about his two conclusions, he welcomes a critical review by any expert in the field. So I would put that out to our planning staff. I'd like to get an answer to his two concluding remarks here.
Yes, over to our CAO, please.
Thank you. Through the chair. As you know, planners have a variety of different opinions, but on this particular topic, we've had several planning opinions that short-term rentals are currently permitted in our bylaws. We started with Mr. Corbett, who did all of the work for us when we went through the public meeting. Mr. Corbett got ill, and we moved to Mr. Robinson, who came out, who had the same opinion, as does our planning staff. So difference of opinion. That's how it is. The only municipality that we see right now that says that they're not legal is Oro. And if you're following what's happening in Oro, they believe that they're not legal in their bylaws. Their bylaws aren't the same as ours, so they're not apples to apples. But even if you can find a planner that says they're not legal, Oro has had zero success in prosecuting under their zoning bylaw.
Yeah, I'd still like to get a response commenting on his conclusions, and let's see what the township position is on that. That's what I asked for.
Okay, thank you. Over to Member Burkett.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that. But just to expand on Madam CAO's comments, if you read in the paper 2 weeks ago, Oro has spent in excess of $1 million. What was the gentleman's name again? I forget his name. Thank you. Mr. Knox is a retired planner, and no disrespect to Mr. Knox, but if you read his, and I'm sure you have, you read it, in his opinion, he's stating, well, we all know sitting at this table that if you had a room full of 10 planners with an item before them, you may get 10 different versions. We had Mr. Knox in this council chambers with, and I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he did live in your ward. That was some years ago, where he expressed his concern and what his thoughts would be as far as short-term rentals. As far as asking for our staff to weigh in on it, that's fine. But the direction needs to come from the province. The enforcement needs to come from the province. In his opinion, he's saying that, and I absolutely agree, it is a business. It shouldn't be in a residential area. We have nothing in our bylaws, nor does any other municipality in Ontario have bylaws that would exclude short-term rentals in a residential area. It has to come from the province. Our MPs need to be involved. I'll even go further than that. And I asked down at County Council that we amalgamate the 16 municipalities. We even had some municipalities come from Muskoka to weigh in on short-term rentals to see what we could do as one body rather than all of us spending taxpayers' money and getting nowhere. As I said, Oro has spent $1 million, and to date, nothing has happened. So out of that meeting, nothing came out of it. There is really no solution to helping our poor residents and short-term rental owners that have no respect for the neighborhood or our residents. Go ahead.
Yeah, just a supplemental through the chair. I'm not asking for $1 million. I'd like to see what the township's position is on these two concluding remarks. That's all. That's what I'm asking for.
Thank you. Over to Member Jansen, please.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And through the chair, I just want to thank the delegates for coming and speaking to us today, and as well putting forward your report. I'm sorry to hear that what you are going through in your community. I believe that the short-term rental owner really should be responsible here. They have a responsibility to their community. I will say, though, I did read through Mr. Knox's report. Short-term rentals are not new. What's new is the availability to market the short-term rentals. Families for generations have rented waterfront cottages and homes from waterfront cottage and home owners so that they could experience with their own families what it's like to stay on the lake and what it's like to have that experience. I really caution going the route of saying that you cannot do that a family would not be able to rent a waterfront home or cottage or making that illegal. I really do think that we should look at strengthening our good neighbors bylaw to see if there's a mechanism for repeat offenses, as was described earlier, so that the homeowner knows that they are responsible for what occurs within their home while they are not there. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to the clerk, is there, when Mr. Knox and the other gentleman came and they spoke, did we do a report back for that? I can't remember if we did comment and do a report. Thank you.
CEO, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, I don't believe we did specifically, but they came and participated in our public meetings. So just to answer Councillor Taylor, I'll just read a piece of that came from that particular report, just so that we can say we have answered this question before to our planners. So in the report that we did when council made the decision to go the good neighbor bylaw instead of licensing, there was a question and answer piece in the report written by Mr. Robinson. So the question specifically was, is a short-term rental a residential use of a residential property? And the answer was yes. While this is not a universally shared opinion across Ontario, most municipalities have determined and are considering short-term rentals to be a residential use. The township has acknowledged in the past that short-term rentals have been part of cottage life and cottage areas as long as there has been cottages. Historically, municipalities were not generally concerned with STRs and considered them a residential use of the property. The township's previous consultant had confirmed that if STRs were prohibited, existing STRs would be considered legal non-conforming. The township solicitor has also confirmed that STRs are a residential use but are not currently addressed in the township zoning bylaw. In our review of the current approaches and practices with respect to STRs and the limited case law on the matter, we share the opinion of the township's previous planning consultant and solicitors that STRs are a residential use and have been permitted and accepted by the township of Severn under the current zoning bylaws.
Sorry, supplement. And I just wanted to back up what the member said here, Member Burkett. I have been reading about short-term rentals and trying to find something. I've read from Muskoka Lakes to Baysville to all of them. And every time they come up with something, they're taken to court. And Blue Mountain's probably about $6 million now. Now, Blue Mountain's issues have subsided a bit, but that's because the short-term rental owners came together as an association or whatever you want to call it, and they actually helped get rid of the bad ones, and they were working together with council on it. But they have hundreds of them over there, and I also agree that it is a provincial. I think BC has done it, Quebec has done it, and now Nova Scotia has done it. Because if you do it that way, you're getting the government involved, and you're also getting the CRA involved at the federal level, because these are things that you need to have a large consensus for. I know some of the big cities are doing it, but they're not doing it for the same reason. They don't want short-term rentals because they're taking up space that could be rental units full-time for people to rent. And that's why the larger cities are really against them, because they're sitting empty for half the year sometimes. Anyway, I think if we look at that good neighbor bylaw and really strengthen it with the amount of complaints we've had, I think that this might be our way to go. But thank you.
Member Burkett.
Thank you. Just through you, Madam Chair, one further thing that I forgot. We even went to the minister. We had a delegation. I can't remember, was it AMO? We went with literature from Quebec and BC regarding what they had for enforcement, because it has to come from upper levels of government. And no disrespect again to Mr. Knox, but Madam CEO just read, we had him here. We had his opinion. So I'm not sure, Member Taylor, what more you're looking for from our staff regarding short-term rentals, other than another discussion about short-term rentals that we absolutely have no control over, other than what we've done through the Good Neighbor bylaws, strengthening our parking and our noise bylaw. And as I said, and I don't think Member Minnings was here, Member Brennan wasn't here. But when we went to the province and the minister, they did absolutely nothing. And we had documentation from both Quebec and BC and some of the laws that they had enacted to try and help municipalities with the problems that they were facing.
Thank you. I would like to speak, so I'm going to pass the chair over to Member Brennan, please.
All right. To Member Minnings.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for coming in. Your point about strengthening this package of bylaws, I think, is currently what is within our control as a council. And looking at other levels of government or other municipalities, it's not anything that we can control. And I think that's a bit of a volley that I want to bring back to what's within our control here as policymakers. When I looked on the township's website under the Good Neighbor bylaws, there was a link. It's under the short-term rental subheading, and it took me to a page with lots of different folders by year. And then I even had trouble looking for what the Good Neighbor bylaws are. So I think including strengthening them, if that's going to be the way council directs staff going forward, is that they should be easily accessible, so that not only does it say Good Neighbor bylaws or whatever the sort of the catchment phrase is that they should be individually listed, and a link to the most recent ones. One of the links on that site is actually a dead link too. So I think that's part of just the regular housekeeping. And by having you both bring this to our attention, I think it's a good time to do that. Secondly, in the package of information that you provided that's available with the agenda, there was a screenshot. I think it was your last page of like $1,300 or something dollars. And when I read that, I thought it was per week to rent this.
That's what you get
yeah.
per night.
So when I found out that was per night, and then when I looked at what our noise bylaw or our parking infractions or what the fines are, and I don't know if that's the politically correct term for enforcement, I think that for repeat offenders, because it's not everybody and it's not every resident or landlord, because we could have permanent residents who also make these bylaw infractions. So if we take the short-term rental conversation out of today's conversation and out of the equation of what we're looking for, if someone is making $1,000 or whatever per night to rent a home, first of all, wow. And as Member Jansen mentioned, that didn't exist before. Social media has really, I think, amped that up. But let's make the punishment fit the crime. If someone's a repeat offender, then per instance, they should be getting an $1,000 per day fine, so that absolutely deflates their ability to make money and come into our beautiful areas. Everyone should enjoy the waterfront, whether they're renters or homeowners or whatever. But as residents, we have a responsibility, and as people who come to use, whether they're visitors or passing through, we all have a responsibility, and that responsibility is definitely here today and within the control of this council. So I really want that to be taken into account too, that when we look at the Good Neighbor bylaws, not just strengthen the wording, but strengthen the fines and put in something so that people, it's very clear that when they have a bylaw infraction, first time this, second time that, third time that, it's a sheet, there's no emotion attached to it, it's business. And it's not an arbitrary decision. So I want to help us, help ourselves, and help staff get to the end of, make the punishments fit the crimes. And I think in these cases, setting fines that are absolutely outrageous, just like the cost per night, is the way to go. Thank you. Okay, member Brennan, please.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. Nancy, I wanted to compliment you. I think your request today was modest, basically, and reasonable. And I agree that these people should be paying a heavy price, and I don't know what the legal heavy price can be, but we need to cover the cost to our local taxpayers through these efforts, so that, and if we do want to bring in more bylaw enforcement, those costs need to be paid by these people. So that's number one. I don't fully agree with everything that's been said here across the table. We all are different people. Absolutely, the province should be doing what BC and Quebec have done. They are really, really not doing their job as far as I'm concerned when it comes to housing as a result of this type of thing. But there are jurisdictions that have had good success with the licensing scheme, not without hiccups. I did some searching of this at an earlier date. Prince Edward County has a fairly comprehensive approach to it, but it's a county, it's not a township, so it's a broader area. They do look on a cost recovery basis, and I actually called the supervisor of enforcement, who actually said they're actually doing a good job, and it's working effectively for them. So it can be done if the province continues to renege. I don't think Severn is there at this time. It's an expensive program to undertake, but it can be done. The Association for Short-Term Rentals does want regulation. They come across as very responsible. And again, as far as I'm concerned, this is where the province is falling down. You have to keep in mind too, that these short-term rentals, it's not just about cottage rental for profit. I know I have one daughter this year that used to rent a cottage up in the Bancroft area, had to cut 2 weeks to one this year because the cost has gone through the roof. They are making a ton of money, even in little places like Bancroft. Tons of money on these rentals. So it's a very profitable enterprise. But it's not just waterfront properties. In Ward 3, for instance, we have heritage homes that are being used responsibly for short-term, beautiful places. I mean, I'd love to spend a night there too if I could afford the $500 a night. But short-term rentals are here to stay. There is no getting away from that. It's how they're regulated that's going to make the difference between people that suffer that what you're going through and the financial, because there is a financial benefit. Anyone, for instance, in Ward 3, they're eating in restaurants, they're staying, they're going to Aurelia, and they are actually contributing to the economy. So, you know, a balance is required. You need protection, and they need to be put under control. So I just wanted to make those points there, and thank you for your presentation.
Can I just say one more thing? I like to do that.
Yes, into the microphone.
Okay,
Awesome.
First
Thank
of
you.
all, I think licensing is the wrong way to go, but that's a whole other thing we're opening up. Second of all, Gord Knox is an extremely intelligent planner. He knows what he's talking about. This isn't just somebody that came in off the street with his opinion. And if you read it, it completely makes sense. That's about it. I mean, and there was also a bylaw in place when this idiot next to us took over the house, restricting, banning, prohibiting short-term rental, and it wasn't used. So he doesn't even have to be there now. That could have been in the past. There could be some nice family living there. And I think everyone would feel differently if they lived in our house.
Yeah, and I just like to say about nobody likes bad publicity, but so many non-events have happened that weren't in the news that nearly were a couple of fatal fatalities could easily happen next door. As soon as you start getting these things happening, then Severn will have bad publicity for this person. We've had neighbours save kids out in the lake, nearly drowned. I mean, these things aren't in the news because they never happened. But something will happen soon, then Severn will have bad publicity because of this one particular person. So be prepared. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you both for coming. I'm going to look to our clerk for a motion. And I'm wondering if we need to have also a second motion for Member Taylor's request.
So through council, Through the chair to council. So I have a motion. I didn't know whether or not council wanted, so I have one requesting that enhancements be brought back for the good neighbor bylaws and the bylaw enforcement policy. And then there's a second part that deals with staff also reporting back on Mr. Knox's submission. Did council want that in the motion, or did we want to split it into two?
Yeah, separate motions, please. Thank you. And let's do a recorded vote on both.
Okay, recorded vote requested by member Minnings. So I need a mover and seconder, and the first motion is that the delegation by Nancy Croft regarding short-term rentals be received, and further that staff report back regarding enhancements to the good neighbor bylaws and bylaw enforcement policy.
Thank you. Moved by member Cox, seconded by member Jansen.
I'll call
Go ahead with a recorded vote.
So member Minnings, for or against?
4.
Okay, member Burkett, for or against? Okay, member McIntyre, for or against?
Sorry, can I just remind the members to have their microphones on? Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Okay, member Cox, for or against?
4.
Member Taylor, for or against?
4.
Member Jansen, for or against?
4.
Member Brennan, for or against? Okay, I believe that one's carried.
Okay, thank you. And a second motion?
Recorded vote as well on this one? Okay, I just need a mover and a seconder.
Thank you. Can you read the motion, please?
The motion is pretty simple. It's just that staff review Mr. Gordon Knox's submission and report back.
Thank you. We have a request to speak, member Taylor.
Yeah, I think actually it's just to not the whole report, just to respond to the 2 conclusions he made on page 15 of our agenda. Rather than the whole report, just the 2 conclusions that he has come to. I think we should hear a definite answer from the township on that.
Okay, so amended motion is that staff review Mr. Gordon Knox's submission, particularly his conclusions, and report back.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by, member Jansen would like to speak.
I just want to speak on the motion. I believe the CAO provided a response based on what member Burkett had said. There was a previous report by Mr. Knox. I just wanted to take that into consideration.
So
Okay, I need a mover, please. Moved by member Taylor, seconded by member McIntyre.
Okay, recorded vote requested by member Minnings. So member Minnings, for or against?
I'm 4.
Okay, member Taylor, for or against?
4.
Okay, member McIntyre, for or against?
4.
Member Burkett, for or against?
Against?
Okay, member Brennan, for or against? You could say that again with your microphone on, that'd be grand.
Against.
Thank you. Member Cox, for or against?
Against.
And member Jansen, for or against?
Against.
Motion fails.
Okay, thank you. We're on item C.2 on our agenda, and we have a second delegation. I would like to ask Chris Puvel to come up to the microphone, please, to present on Lake Country Tourism update and our 2025 budget and your 2025 budget request. And I will mention that Mr. Puvel is the Executive Director of Lake Country Tourism. Welcome.
Well, good morning. Good morning, everyone. And it was just over a year ago that I sat here and provided an update, and the year's gone by. So I really wanted to come and share what Aurelian Lake Country Tourism has been up to over the past year, and with a real emphasis on how we have supported the Township of Severn. We're an organization that supports 4 municipalities, and we brand the region. But I think in the interest of time today, we're going to really focus on how our organization has benefited tourism in Severn the Township of Severn. So I always like to just provide a recap of our mission and our core objectives, strengthening partnerships, delivering and promoting strategic marketing campaigns, creating and supporting exemplary visitor experiences, and always finding a way to generate new and leverage existing funding, because marketing takes resources. Our website, aurelialakecountry.ca. This is, our main digital platform. This is something we're very active on, always updating it. Just comparison, page views from I'm giving you 2023 to 2022. We saw a bounce back. After COVID, we really started to rise again as far as tourism growing again, and tourism, expanding, and more visitors coming from across the world, really. Page views have gone up, and so have the amount of users. So that's the number you see on the right there, 347. Those are unique users that have landed on our website. As far as the geolocation goes, Toronto, by and large, is our market, where we generate interest from, but also we're a resource for our local market. And, typically we've invited people here, but what COVID demonstrated to us is we have a market here of 90,000 people within, 30 to 45 minutes of where we're sitting right now. So let's not undervalue them. Let's make sure they're getting the information too. So you'll see that Aurelia, and an Aurelia phone usually means an Oromadonte, a Severn, a Rama First Nation phone as well. So we'll call it the Lake Country audience, and then third is Barrie. And then after that, you'll start seeing Mississaugas and Richmond Hills and London. So as far as Severn goes, we just did a query here. We pulled any of our URLs that say Severn in it. We have 20,000 page views just to that. We have a Severn tourism page that we are always updating. We're putting new videos on, new photography. So keeping it vibrant, keeping it current, and making sure that the information on there is relevant to the visitor. Next page, please. So here you'll see the top Severn pages. And again, we've just pulled in anything that says Severn. We're big on blogs. We write blogs in a timely manner, get that out there. So this particular blog, Find Your Fall Rural Escape in Severn, one of our best performing pages on our website last year, at over 11,000 views. And then I did another query that included the word Coldwater. So there you'll see Coldwater, the Fall Fair, Coldwater Village. And, our website is a valuable resource for community organizations to post their events. We know that a lot of our organizations are volunteer run. They don't necessarily have the marketing outreach. So they go up on our website, they post their listing to our events page, and, we get ranked really high on SEO on Google. So that's how people are finding out about a lot of these events. And we all know that Coldwater is the town of events. So just a few examples there of the traffic that's going to these events in Coldwater. And then on the left, again, some of those blogs dedicated entirely to Severn. Next page, please. Social media, we're big on social media. This is how a lot of people find their information in today's world. So again, just some metrics there. Facebook up 3.6%, but Instagram up 21%. So, we're posting on a regular basis, almost on a daily basis. We share posts from Severn businesses. We have targeted campaigns, and we conduct 2 seasonal campaigns. And this is with support from RTO 7 as well. So this is this collaborative approach where we pool our money and then we promote Severn to, that's mostly a GTA market through those seasonal campaigns. And those are just some examples of some posts on our social media dedicated to the Township of Severn. Next. Visitor guide. We still believe that there is power in print. Every year we print 25,000 visitor guides, and these are distributed throughout the province, but also locally. This is a resource that people like to have in their hands. And it's evident because we're almost out for this year. So I think we have about 1,000 left. We're working on next year's visitor guide already. So, you know, we start handing these out at the boat show in Toronto. We have them available throughout the province. And within it, you'll find a number of interesting articles about our region, but also it's a way for our businesses to advertise. Participation in programs, Tap into Maple, you might have heard of. Again, shoulder season. You know, we know summer sort of sells itself organically here, but our emphasis often is the fall and the winter, spring. So Tap into Maple celebrates everything maple. So just looking at some of the local businesses that participate in that program, Copper Pot, Hewitt's, and Maple Grove Syrup, no cost to them. We cover that cost, and it's quite a robust marketing program to drive traffic here in March, which is often, you know, a traditionally quiet time in tourism. Next. Additional support, you know, there's power in photo and power in video. We always look at our library and we look at where are the gaps in our photo library or video library. So this past winter, we undertook a substantial photo and video project, capturing some assets here from the resorts to your downtowns. Again, RTO 7 provided some funding to that. So we kicked in a little bit, they kicked in more. So we made, you know, this video that's then going to be used for marketing and photos. And these photos are then shared with our businesses. You know, photo and video is expensive. So if we facilitate that and then we pass it on to your economic development communications departments and to our businesses, well, one less thing for you to worry about. Next, please. We're really proud of this project. This is our UTOF Trail app. This is the first app we ever created. We know people like apps. This is something they can use on their mobile phones while they're out there. So we created this app that is available on Google and Apple, and it's pretty much storytelling along the UTOF Trail. It's videos, it talks about the cultural, the natural history through a number of interviews, and something we really pushed again through, you know, we promoted it through social media, and up to now, I believe we have about 400, close to 500 downloads of this app, and we'll continue to push that. And again, we're seeing more and more cyclists coming in, and we have a lot to offer. So this is something that you'll continue to see out there. Is just building on our cycling and also promoting the UTOF Trail. Next, please. So marketing the destination, this isn't specifically Severn or Aurelia or Rama First Nation, but this is sort of building that brand, the Lake Country brand. I mean, your name is on the logo, but so this is, you know, in the GTA, we do digital billboards. You'll see on top of some of the 400 series highways at certain times of the year. The one on the left, I believe, is a fall, promoting fall. And then on the right, we have event trucks at some big events, you know, Canada Day, TIFF, Leafs when they're in the playoffs. Sorry, Leafs not. So this truck basically sits out front. There's lots of people there, so lots of eyes and striking visuals just to get that brand recognition of who we are and where we are. Next, please. And I just wanted to provide you a few testimonials. We pride ourselves on working with our partners, with our businesses, communicating with them. So just a few testimonials. I'm not going to read that. It's in your board package, but you know, one here from Baby Wildwood. Next, please. And you know, Stephanie from Copper Pot and Brent from Maple Grove Syrup. Just to give you an idea that we work with businesses of all sizes, and it's often those smaller businesses that need our help the most. And I also wanted to give a shout out to your communications department and Tracy, and welcome aboard to Becky, because for us to be successful, we need to have those relationships. Your staff know what's going on the ground, and we make all efforts to, you know, have our ears to the ground, but it's that feeding of information from your departments to us. Then we can get it out on social media, and we welcome that at all times, and look forward to few projects we're already working on in the next few weeks and months. So hopefully that was 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
You were good.
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much, Chris. Questions. So I have Member Cox, then Member Burkett, and Member Taylor, please.
Thank you. Through Madam Chair to you, Chris. Thank you very much to you and your staff for everything that you do. I do sit on that committee, and now that we have Becky with us as part of economic development, if she's willing to come with me to meet the others and maybe have some input, that would be great. I think we have a meeting in October. And yes, just thank you for everything that you do.
Well, my big excitement, I mean, was all this because I was on that committee, but mine is when you said, and we get to work with your departments, economic department, communication department, because we've never had them. Like we've had them, but recently. So it's really nice that we have Becky and Tracy to work with you. And I think it's great to see, and we have Keith Prentice here from the mill who's making a presentation next. And there's another person that could probably use, that group could definitely work with you and Becky to promote our wonderful cultural mill in Coldwater. And we also have, as you know, Washago and all our other little areas, and they all benefit from this. And I've seen it in the past, and I can see it moving forward. I just want to thank you and the board of directors for all the hard work you've done. And we've been very, very lucky to have Lake Country to help promote us. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah, through the chair to Chris. No, I enjoyed the PowerPoints. Scans the whole township. It's great. But mine's a money one.
Yeah.
You mentioned the 4 communities on the letterhead there. And my question is, are all the 4 municipalities contributing to Lake Country?
Yeah. And I wanted to, I know part of my presentation was the ask. So the ask will remain the same for 2025, 22,500. To answer your question, Rama First Nation, Township of Oro-Medonte, Township of Severn provide 22,500. For Aurelia, it's a little bit different because they have the municipal accommodation tax. So we get 50% of the municipal accommodation tax, which amounts to last year about $275,000 from Aurelia. So, and they say take 45 out of that, 275, and use it for operating expenses. So that's why we can do a lot of those high ticket marketing initiatives, and like the GTA is because we have that additional market revenue from the municipality of Aurelia, but all the other townships provide the same amount.
So Ramera is in?
No, Ramera is not in, and I didn't mention Ramera.
No, but their name's still on the letter.
Yeah, and our board is deciding what to do with Ramera at our next meeting. Yes.
For an awkward question, but
yeah,
I'd like to hear what
we're
all in this thing together. And but I appreciate the request, and I'll certainly support it. My own will support it at budget time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? I just have a question of Member Burkett. You mentioned the committee. Could you just tell me what committee you're on? That
Through Madam Chair. So I sit on the Lake Country Committee and report back to council on our findings. But now that we have Becky, I think I'll have her do that. Thank you, Becky.
Every municipality has a representative on our board of directors automatically. Yeah.
Thank you.
She was at our marketing committee meeting yesterday. So yeah,
Thank you. I just wanted to clarify that too for anyone who might be listening, and then so that I didn't have to answer that question. So thank you for expanding on that. And that's great. Over to our clerk. Do we have a motion, please?
I do. So the motion reads that the delegation by Lake Country Tourism regarding an update and a 2025 budget request be received and referred to budget.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Burkett. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pavel. Our third delegate is representing the Coldwater Mill, and I would ask Keith Prentice to come up, please, and take a seat to give us an update and present your 2025 budget request. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Keith Prentice. I'm the chair of the Coldwater Heritage Mill Foundation. I'm here today to give you an update on what we've been doing in the past year and a little bit of direction that we're trying to go in with the mill. I'll start with our mission as well. Our mission is to preserve the legacy of the Coldwater Mill, educate the public on its historical significance, and provide a place for the community to enjoy the natural beauty in its surroundings. So this year we received a Trillium grant for just about $50,000. We were able to use that to do significant painting repairs to the three sides of the outside of the mill, and as well as install a fence across our property line to our neighbors on Epplett Street. So that's given the mill a good facelift. Looking forward to our bicentennial or 200th anniversary in 2033, which is coming up quickly. And the fence is also allowing us to expand our grounds and work along the riverfront. We're working really closely with the Severn Sound Environmental Association on through their Restore the Shore program to reinvigorate that shoreline, get the invasive species out of there, and reintroduce some more native species and maintain the shoreline of the river. The mill is the grounds of the mill is sort of a source of pride for the mill itself as well. You know, we have a wonderful grounds there with the musical barn, and it's a great standing off point for all the events in Coldwater. Great viewing platform for the Coldwater Lions Club duck race. We're looking forward to hosting the upcoming Witches Walk. Lots of little events happening in our yard for that as well, and a lot of other different community events. Our big one is we use the musical barn. We put on live concerts on Friday nights now. We put on 8 this year. Great amount of success, people coming from all over to see them. Last Friday was our last one, and the weather was good, so we had a great turnout again. And your support, the council support we get through the grants, specifically for that one, is great. Obviously, the rates that the musicians charge exceeds the amount that grant covers. So this year we had some sponsors to help offset the cost for some of the larger groups, need a little bit more money for that music. We're hoping we can maintain that and keep that a free event. We do a bit of fundraising at it. People give donations. Doesn't amount to much. Doesn't cover the cost of the musicians, but it's great that people want to give. So the big thing for us, I guess, is we're entirely volunteer driven. The board of directors is all volunteer. And they do an incredible amount of work, whether it's from applying for grants or basic, upkeep and maintenance things that have to happen at the mill to, right down to pulling weeds in the gardens and things like that. So, fantastic board of directors. I can't thank them enough. We're incredibly active. Everyone on the board does their own thing. We also have our Friends of the Mill, which are our group of retired millwrights and engineers that come in 1 day a week. They make a terrible mess. They joke and carry on, but they do an amazing amount of work in terms of restoring the building and the equipment and things like that are in there. Couldn't live without our volunteers. So next year or in years future, it's a pretty significant project, but I mentioned we painted 3 sides of the mill. The reason we did that is our riverside, our face of the world, is in probably the worst shape of the whole building. So it's a significant repair in and of itself, involving new windows and some new siding, and then of course paint and repair and things like that. So we're hoping that we can apply for another grant going forward that would restore that. And we're going to need some help from council on that, because if any of you know the location, there's really not a lot of room to work. So we're likely going to have to shut down River Street for periods of time. So that'll be something that we'll be looking for help with. That's probably a 1 to 3 year timeline on that. Again, trying to get that done for that 200th anniversary. We have a boutique in the mill that we've got, I think it's about 30 vendors, and that allows us we hire 3 to 5 students a year, summer students, and that allows us to have a bit of diversity in the mill in terms of, we've got the historical and the museum aspect, but we've also got that boutique, that artist boutique, that people can come in and view those items. And what it actually does for us is it offsets the cost of having students. So not all the grants cover all of the employment. They cover a percentage of the, and other grants only cover a specific amount of time that doesn't cover us to be open 7 days a week through the summer season. So that the revenue from the boutique offsets the costs of having the staff. And it also provides that space for local artists. We have the new art gallery upstairs. We're into about our third season with that. And an average of about 6,000 people cross our threshold every year. We're already on tap to have an increase. Difficult for us to know because our season, begin and ends. And with all the events in Coldwater, one of the things I noticed on the weekend was we're only halfway through the bookmark, the advertising bookmark. I flipped it over and went, oh, look, top of the, so we've got the whole rest of that. Here we are in September and we're only halfway through. So, we're literally coming into our busy season and we're effectively, as of Saturday, closed for the season. We do open for the special events, but, it's a very busy time of year. And we have people that sign our guest book from all over the world. This year of note, there was Germany, the UK, and Australia were the ones that I picked up on. So it's kind of interesting that, we can draw people in from that far afield. We're a registered charity and we rely on donations from individuals and businesses. My ask from you again this year would be the $7,500 to help support us from the Economic Development Fund. That helped us in paying our insurance premiums last year, which are over $8,000. I unfortunately still don't have the numbers because literally it's renewal time for us. So I'm waiting for the email any day now. October 1st is the renewal date. So we're down to the wire, but hopefully that number will come in soon. But that's a significant cost for us that you helped support us with last year, and it was fantastic. So for 191 years, the mill has been a place to gather. It was a place to celebrate in the bounty of the harvest and collect feed for livestock, catch up on community gossip, things like that. We're hoping that we can continue that. We just had our AGM. Becky was there. I'm working with her on a lot of different things, but the big one is our community space. That second floor is open for people to use. Not-for-profits can hold meetings there. Unfortunately, it's a seasonable space, so it only allows you to do it certain times of the year. But yeah, not-for-profits can hold meetings there. Local people can have birthday parties, all kinds of different things. We somewhat want to commit or compete rather directly with the township with their meeting space at the arena, and potentially steal some of your, but not to that degree. But we have hosted meetings there and things like that. So it'd be nice to see that activated in the same way that the musical barn is, and get more activity through there. That's about me. I'm here for any questions, if anybody has any, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, I'll start with Member Jansen, please, and then Member Cox and Member Burkett.
Through the chair to Mr. Prentice. First off, I just want to say I appreciate how passionate you are about preserving the history of the Coldwater Mill and making sure that it remains a gem in the community of Coldwater, as well as a place where people feel comfortable coming. I know that you guys participate in lots of events. I had the pleasure of attending as many as I could, the Friday night sessions. They were wonderful. I think if we keep doing that, more and more people are going to show up. You had a wonderful winter event as well. You really got kids involved in our community. I just want to say, keep up the great work. The other part, I think it's great you've been able to paint the 3 sides of the building. I'm just wondering if you already know the cost of painting the 3rd side of the building, or sorry, the 4th side. Yeah, I'm wondering if you know what the costs are, the estimates.
We don't know the cost. The cost exceeds just painting the 4th side. So I'm actually anticipating that the request for that in a future Trillium grant will probably be about $250,000. A large part of that expense is probably going to be scaffolding or lifts or things like that, just to access the parts of the building. In a perfect world, we would replace all the windows and replace, if not all the siding, the bulk of the siding on that side, and kind of restore it to what I call original condition. I don't really know what that means because it's changed so much over the years, but it's going to be a significant financial as well as time burden on the volunteers of the mill, and then, you know, as I said, probably a significant future trillium grant.
Thank you, Mr. Prentice. And again, thank you to the rest of the board members, as well as committee member Taylor, who I know sits on the board.
Okay, thank you. Member Burkett.
I just wanted to thank you also, but what I want to do is through the chair to Becky. You were talking about the trillium grant for the facing. I just wondered if maybe Becky may know of some, and I don't know a lot about this. It's just there are private trust grants out there, different ones that, you know, give money to, and I would think there might be something for like an old heritage building or something like that. If you might be able to see what you can find out in your travels, because you see much more people than we do, and there may be something there, because I've known other groups that have found those ones, and it could be like what happened at the museum yesterday, like the Matthews, they gave money to the museum, or there's these legacy groups of wealthy families who have these trusts that they like to hand out and help people with. Yeah. So that might be something that we could help you with also. Perfect. Besides the other one. Yeah. And I just want to thank you also. And as far as what the mill looked like, it looks better. I was a little kid. I go there all the time because Mr. Uplet would give us suckers and we could hang out there. And that's where all the cats would go, because that's where everybody had sent their cat they didn't want anymore. But I just want to thank you too. That has made a really nice cultural part of our community. And I'm sure that Chris can find us some uses and some advertising for the mill also, because we have all these communication people, economics, we have Lake Country, we have Segbay. There's so many groups that could really help promote the mill. And it's very nice that the BIA and you are working together for all these events. It's really pulled the community together. And thank you.
Sure.
Member Burkett.
Thank you through Madam Chair. Just to echo the comments of both Member Jansen and Member Cox, to Member Taylor, who sits on the board, and the other members and yourself, thank you for all the hard work that you do. It's a huge undertaking. I know it's volunteer driven, and I can't imagine how many hours you spend. And I want to thank Becky for being at the AGM last week. Member Taylor did take me on a tour. It's quite a gem that we have. And I think I may be wrong, but is it the only mill in all of Canada of that age, or is there another one? I don't think there's another one.
No, unfortunately, Bacchus beats us every time.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, it's a wooden mill. It's older and it's in continuous operation.
Where's Bacchus? Sorry, where about this?
Down by Lake Erie.
I didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's an unknown kind of thing. It's probably a local thing, but yeah, Bacchus beats us every time. And then Arva Mills is the oldest continually operating water-driven mill in Ontario.
Oh,
so we don't get the ability to say we are the of anything, unfortunately. But
we're number 3.
Yeah, yeah. So we would be number 2 in terms of wooden mills, surviving wooden mills, and number 3 in terms of mills, the oldest mills that still exist.
Well, thank you very much for everything you do, but it's quite a legacy for us to have it right here in our own township.
Absolutely.
It is. And you didn't mention to the members of council here, just expand on the restaurant, maybe what's happening, and maybe Chris may be able to help along with Becky.
Yeah. We have that rental space. It's fantastic when it's up and running. It's an incredible location. But like any business, venture that anybody that leases from us, businesses succeed or fail. Restaurants are well known for being difficult to operate. So basically it looks like on October 1st, the restaurant space will be up for lease again. So yeah, we have been working already with Becky, and I will touch base with Chris on on potentially promoting that and getting that space leased again. So it's a significant financial driver for us. And we are definitely feeling the pain of not having it. So, you know, it'll be great to have that open again. And the community feels the pain as well. If you spend any time in Coldwater, if I spend any time in downtown Coldwater, I get asked at least 2-3 times every time I'm downtown, what's going on in the restaurant. So
Supplementary to you, Madam Chair, if I may, I didn't follow up with Derek. And Derek, thank you for doing all those drainage works on the road. But is the basement okay now?
Basement's fantastic.
Good. So
yeah, I mean, it still fills up every spring. Not much we can do about it. One of the things that I make a comment on all the time is that for 191 years, that building had water running through it. So, you know, the building is perfectly capable of having water in the basement. It's when it was flooding the basement that we had a problem. Now, worst case scenario, we get about 6 feet of water in the basement. And for people who don't know, there's about 12 feet of basement. So, you know, it's a significant, it comes up about 6 feet and that's it. We can't leave our sump pump on all winter because it freezes. So in the spring, Mark and I work pretty diligently to try to keep the water pumped out, and it's always a struggle. But it's almost a fight not worth taking on anymore because it only comes up so high now and then it stops. So it certainly doesn't worry me. I wasn't part of the organization during the times when it wasn't working. So, you know, I don't have that same nervous feeling that Mark gets when the water starts to rise down there. But it's dry all summer now. So no problem, right? So it's only in the spring that we had that bit of fight. And, you know, depending on the winter, the first fight is just getting through the ice because it freezes, of course. So, and then getting it pumped out and then keeping it dry. But it's really not, I don't think it represents nearly the struggle we used to have, but definitely the fix of the road has solved the problem.
thank you for that. And thank you, Derek, for working with the group.
Okay. And yeah, thank you. I've had the pleasure of touring the mill, all the levels, and it's super impressive. One thing I'm most impressed with, and we'll keep in mind during budget considerations, is that the age of the building and having something in our Canadian culture that's preserved over the years. So with a European background, I'm used to knowing and seeing how things are preserved for centuries, for example. So we're coming up to 200 years, which is just a very short period of time compared to the countries across the pond. But anyway, I think it's worth keeping. The other thing I will say is that you know, imitation is the highest form of flattery, and to your music events in the on the property in West Shore, our events committee mirrored that this summer with our jamming in the park. So what you're doing is noticed, and it does contribute to economic development and it, you know, a movement. So you are known. My last question, and I think I know the answer, but accessibility. So you mentioned the second floor meeting room. It would be great to be able to use that for certain meetings and certain groups that I'm part of, but accessibility is a problem so there's no plans, or are there any grants available to make that space accessible somehow?
Already fully accessible.
It is.
Yeah, so the new addition on the back of the mill is all ramped to get in and all level, and then we have a lift that allows for wheelchairs or things to get up.
Thank you. I'm glad you said that, because I stand corrected. I don't remember the lift, and maybe I didn't write it.
Tucked into the corner. You might not have noticed it, but it is there.
Thank you. Yeah. That makes me very happy. Yeah. Okay, over to our clerk for a motion, please.
Thank you. The motion reads that the delegation by Keith Prentice for the Coldwater Mill regarding an update and 2025 budget requests be received and referred to budget.
Thank you. Moved by member Brennan and seconded by member Jansen. All in favor? And passed. Thank you. We're going to take a 5-minute break and Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by member Taylor, seconded by member Jansen. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Agenda item F, reports from officials for direction. Report F 1.1, Public Works Report number W24-032, the 2025 road resurfacing program. Over to Derek Burke, please.
Thank you, through the chair. So we're happy to report on the draft 2025 roads resurfacing program. In the program, we have approximately $3 million worth of physical work, but an additional $800,000 or $830,000 of design projects that will advance for more aggressive reconstruction of projects that were identified in the 2022 road resurface or roads needs study, and also supports the transportation master plan goals of 2023. You'll see the list of the projects through there. And of course, I won't round them all off. I might just open it up for discussion.
Okay, thank you. Member McIntyre, please.
Thank you through the chair to Mr. Burke. I'm really hoping that we can get Riverdale Road put on there. At one time, we paved about a kilometer and a quarter, and we left sometime, I don't know why, but we never did get back to. The balance of that road is about a kilometer 0.1. As I understand, the first kilometer and a bit cost about $360,000 to do. And I'd like to see if we could possibly get Riverdale Road finished. There's about another 1.1 kilometers to do. And using the idea that the previous amount was about 360, I would think that it'd be similar to that. I would wonder if you could put Riverdale Road on for consideration.
Okay, thank you. Over to Mr. Burke.
Thank you, through the chair. And that's, yeah, so that's the good part of this discussion, is to find out if there are needs that we haven't quite identified. Just to give a bit of context to that, Riverdale was completed in 2021, and the valuation there was just over 200,000, and so a little less than what was reported there. However, the construction price index has grown substantially since about 2019. We find that actually from values of 2019 to today has nearly doubled in the non-residential construction price index, 46%. So yes, I think the valuation of about 350,000 would be a reasonable estimate for the extension of 1.2 kilometers of roadway. What I want to maybe ask Allison if it's possible to bring up is our financial thresholds for capital output. In previous years, if I do get that little chart up, we've grown from about just over 1.5 million output per year. The green line there is actually indexed back to a common number of $2022. And so you've seen that we've grown through the years at a steady pace, and then forecast to grow at a more steady pace up to 2030 at the range of $3 to $4 million output per year. And this capital plan is pegged at 3.04, along with some design work. So we're getting close to the $4 million output, which is somewhat sustainable for the township's capital draw and reserves and our funding mechanisms of the gas tax, OCIF, and we also have an aggregate royalty fee that comes in along with levy. So that's the cap. So I think adding a project or two is possible, but we just want to stay within the fiscal cap of 3.5 to $4 million output. And that would add 350,000 to 3.04. If there's any other requests on the table.
Supplemental through the chair. I would request that if we get to budget, and I request to have that Riverdale piece considered.
Any other questions, Member Cox, and then Member Jansen? Thank you.
Okay, through the chair to Derek. Foxmead, definitely. And one thing I do need to say is I realize our cost of fixing roads it always escalates, but that is the one thing that we hear about the most besides speeding is the shape of our roads. And if we can do that to keep our residents content and happy and ensure that cars don't fall apart, which they tell us, then I'd be very happy. So I agree, but the Narrows one, is there any reason why we have to do from Hodgkins? Like, that's just a little short thing that nobody ever uses. So like in my mind, why would you, there's not a house on it, there's nothing. So why couldn't we just start at Santa Mon?
So through the chair, absolutely. It's, you know, the roads needs study follows a pattern of selecting based on traffic volumes, desire lines, where that road or pavement structure is in its life cycle, and where that particular stretches from Hodgins over to Santa Mon is similar to the remaining section of Narrows Road and up to Rockcliffe. But that doesn't mean that we have to do that. It's continuity in project. It's it does the larger the project that's in the same area, you do get a bit of cost efficiencies. But for sure, we could adjust that at council's direction to reduce, you know, that first length and really focus on Santa Monica to the end. And I do want to read it if I'm able to bring up the second picture. You'll see in this picture of Narrows Road, this project's a bit of a hybrid. We're looking to do localized improvements of images like this. This is a corner on Narrows Road that has failed. And so there are sections of this. However, the remaining of the road varies in condition. A lot of earth rock transitions to, you know, low-lying areas that are perpetually saturated. And so we're looking to do a double high float style repair on here and addressing these structurally, but the remaining of the road will actually have layer on top of the existing asphalt where it's performing well, so that we really maximize our dollars in renewing this low volume rural roadway. So that's the approach, and that's why the cost per lane kilometer is a little lower than others that we've seen in the plan.
Yeah, supplemental, thank you, because I was going to mention it is a low volume road, but it was probably one of the earlier ones that was ever done. But if it's low volume, that from Hodgkins to Santa Mon is like extremely low. I might as well go through them. Gray Street, I talked to you about that. That's good. The Woodrow Road, somebody said the worst road. I think that would now qualify with the ducks. It's probably one of the worst roads I've ever been on. Crescent Bay, if we can get in and fix that for that type of money, I don't think I have a problem with that one. The other ones, I understand completely that we need to commence to the next phase. They're all important roads. We'll discuss the Claresbridge Lane and Twin Oaks probably in our upcoming report from you. And yeah, I see that we've basically covered all the areas across the township. The wards are all looked after, and the roads that need to be looked after will be. I understand that it doesn't cover all your recommendations. There's one thing I would like to discuss. It's not on here, but at budget is that Woodrow Bridge, the bridge at Woodrow Road. I think we need to talk about that one. It's just a lot of money, and we need to discuss, is it repairable? Is it maybe less? Because it's not it's highly used, but we have two entrances. And I don't want to say I want to rip it out or anything. It's just that that's a lot of money when we have two entrances, but thank you.
Thank you, Member Jansen.
Thank you. And Member Cox covered actually a lot of items that I was going to raise. I guess, Director Burke, I just wanted to ask a question about the Gray Street, Sturgeon Bay road resurfacing. My understanding is that we're just looking at refreshing the pavement at this time. The widening of Gray Street, am I correct to say that that would be happening in another 5 to 10 years from now as part of the master transportation plan?
Yeah, through the chair, that's a perfect summary of sort of the plan. We have an asset that has a midlife state, and so we can extend that and renew those assets at a cheaper dollar per square meter, knowing that our longer term plan in the transportation master plan is to look to additional road width in that platform. So let's maximize the assets that we have, and once they've deteriorated to the end of life, due for the upgrades.
Okay, thank you. And supplemental, I will just say it to Member Cox's points. I'm very happy to see Foxbeat on this list as well as Woodrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Burkett.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair. To Derek, the Bayou Road reconstruction, the utility coordination, the 300,000. Can we just you just tell council what it's for, please?
Certainly, through the chair, the value that particular value is fairly volatile. It probably is a bit high, which doesn't mean we'll spend it. It just means that it's available for relocation costs. But what we're doing on Bayou is we're currently in the 60% design submission, and we find a number of hydro poles are in the way of our planned active transportation and road widening detail. And so there are some relocations that are required. Poles need to be moved over. Some poles need to be doubled, so additional hydro poles to support. And we're working with Hydro One on those plans, as well as I believe there are some telecom relocations as well. So all of that being said, there's some fees that will be incurred in 2025 that will need a budget to expend to relocate some of these utilities, but it'll come back to council. We'll report back on our findings as we move through the year and get firm costs from Hydro One and any other utility.
Thank you. Supplementary, if I may, through Madam Chair. So when Hydro relocates the pole, we actually have to pay for it. Is that the way it works? Okay. And then all the utilities as well?
Through the chair, so this is a standard approach across the province, and what they are called is franchise agreements, and we actually cost share. So because the utility gets some renewal, they pay for that portion, and it's 50-50. So we basically split the cost. We would like it removed or relocated, and they gain the benefit of new assets, so it's a 50-50 split.
Thank you. Supplementary, you, Madam Chair, if I may. I'm looking at all the engineering costs, Derek, like 80,000, 100,000, 80,000, 100,000, now 300. Like, is there no way that, are we using the same firm to do these? Is there no way they cut us some sort of deal, or are these prices firm?
So through the chair, we do use a variety of consultants. Actually, on the roster, even today, is about 4 different consultants. They competitively they compete on proposals for each job, and each job are sizable enough that they stand on their own. Where they don't, we do a combined. So we do an engineering services collection, and we've done that in the past as well. So we do try to use the tools that we have to minimize the cost of design. But design is required when we're changing the landscape of the roadway, and really supports the construction phase and mitigates change orders and all kinds of things. So investing in design ultimately controls costs in construction.
Thank you. Over to Member McIntyre, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, to Mr. Burke. This is a bit of a blurry area, but we have responsibility for Moynes Road out Coopers Falls Roadway. And I know the County Road 52 at Coopers Falls Road is a county road. However, it doesn't change the fact that it's impossible to come off of Moynes Road and turn left because of a big rock cut that's there. And I'm just concerned that we've had a letter of concern from a ratepayer, Mrs. McNichol, down that way. And I'm concerned that somebody's going to pull out there one day and make a left-hand turn on that bend, and then we're going to be all attending a funeral. Could be me, because I'm on that road regular. So my question is, even though it's blurry, is there any way we can interface or interact with our friends at the county to conclude that perhaps for the right turn even, we could have them consider paving a bit of the shoulder so that coming up to the intersection on 52, they could draw to the right and merge onto that road? And as far as the left turn, it's impossible. So I don't know what you could do if you spoke to the people at the county to sort of interact with them to see what their thoughts are about that intersection. It's a serious intersection issue. Sight lines are horrible. So I'd appreciate if you could answer that question.
Yeah, through the chair, I think I know the intersection well, and it definitely is under the control of the upper tier, the county of AMCTO. Perhaps kind of as we, if we wrap up the staff report here today, I see some motions where we add Riverdale and And I see a motion perhaps that just directs staff to contact the county to discuss. I mean, it's probably not our roadway to fund a project in there or any major change, but that doesn't mean we don't talk on a regular basis. And a directive from committee here would just streamline that.
Thank you. Member Burkett.
Through you, Madam Chair. Thank you. Derek, would it be any help if I had Christian come out and we looked at that intersection at some point? I know he'd be happy to come out to have a look at it, see what his thoughts are along with you to help with the report. Is that something you would like me to do?
Through the chair, I think Christian, so the director of transportation services at the county AMCTO, has actually, we've discussed this intersection in the past. So I think having a motion from council that direct staff, we can report back and say, the township is still concerned about this intersection and would like a further discussion. I think that's a good start. But we certainly work with Christian and his team.
Supplementary, if I may, through you, Madam Chair, it's something else has come, and I'm sorry, Member McIntyre, I didn't tell you this, but with the amount of homes now that are down on Severn Street on the opposite side, as well as Moynes Road, kids now are congregating on Coopers Falls Road along with the bad turn that's there. And I think it would be our responsibility, it may be the county's, but a street light during the winter months when kids are there. And I hate to ask for another street light, but is that something we could look at budget time as well, please?
Yeah, through the chair, I think that's probably not even on this roads list, right? So we'll just, during budget, we can discuss that and bring it forward as an item for consideration, not to include, but.
Okay, if there's no more questions, I would like to pass the chair for a moment so that I can ask. Okay, thank you. Through the chair to Derek. Goldstein Road is on the recommendation list for our next phase, and it specifically speaks to multi-use path design. Thank you. Fantastic. What I'd like to speak to you about is considering having the lower portion of Goldstein Road added to the resurfacing list. So it's a much smaller length, shorter length than Crescent Bay, for example, which is one I'm familiar with the length of it. So what's happening at Goldstein Road? There's a section of it that is residential, ends with a cul-de-sac, residential, and ends at the lake. So it's a dead end. At the corner of Turnbull Road and Goldstein, the Transportation Consortium this September created a bus stop there, right at the corner. There have been more than a dozen reports to the 1-800-OPP number. I've been out many times. There's video, photograph. What's happening there is the buses are stopping in the morning and then again in the evening. People are using the roads, both sides of Goldstein, actually, the east and the west portions. But the lower part, which isn't on this list, is in really bad shape, as we brought forward before, and potholes continue to be filled, and that's great. Non-existent shoulders. But with the trucks working at the Turnbull subdivision full-time, and with the new families that have moved into that area, and with Goldstein Road being a highway access, so it's a very busy street, and there's nowhere to stand, etc. So just something to, I don't know, but whether the road's resurfaced, which gives more area for kids and families and strollers, etc., to stand twice a day, just to get them off the road and into a safer spot, because outside of the current road and the little narrow gravel patch, we're into ditch. So I just wanted to put that on your radar. I haven't emailed you specifically about that. It's ongoing, and that's something that I would like to be considered if there's time between now and budget. The other thing I wanted to mention, and Member Burkett brought up about the the high cost of engineering, and it just made me think. So no question, no answer really needed from staff, because I just thought of this now. I believe that when we had a presentation from a consultant recently about the number of new positions or resources that needed, that should be considered for the township to add on to its staffing complement. I believe it was either in the staffing report or came from a member here that perhaps bringing an engineer on staff would be a better use of money, because an annual salary for an engineer is just still a fairly significant job and role, could still, I would think, be less than the cumulative total of all of these individual costs. So if you have an opportunity to comment on that, thank you.
Yeah, certainly. So during that event of review of resources, internal and external, and how we do our business, the design works that we're talking about here, the engineering services, they're a big variety. On one project, you might have geotechnical engineers looking at the soil quality. They have drill rigs that advance coring into the earth and take samples and do the analysis with lab appurtenances. And there's a variety of other engineering types. There's street lighting engineering, there's electrical engineers, there's civil engineers, there's drainage specific engineers. And so when we say engineering, it's not just one discipline or one person. To build an internal team of project delivery engineering firm like capability is not typical for a municipality our size, and is even sort of not overly. They don't deliver all projects when they're used in the larger cities, like the city of Barrie and the city of Orillia have small engineering firm like capability, but still very niche in what they can deliver. So that's kind of why you see this structure.
Okay, thank you. Over to the clerk for a motion, please.
Thank you. So reflecting the discussions that have happened, the motion reads that Public Works Report number W24-032 dated December 25th, 2024, with respect to the 2025 road resurfacing program be received, and further that the proposed road resurfacing program be accepted with the following additions and changes. So remaining portion of Riverdale Road at 350,000, amended scope for Narrows Road starting at Sanama Road versus Hodgins, and the addition of the lower portion of Goldstream Coopers Falls Road.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, Madam Chair, just before we'll make note in the direction to staff to also include the streetlight piece that Member Burkett brought forward. But because it's not a specific road item, I'll just note it in the notes.
Thank you. And then my question is regarding the direction to Mr. Burke to contact the County of Simcoe. Was that part of it?
I believe that was the last line of the motion.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a mover, please? Moved by Member McIntyre, seconded by Member Brennan. All in favor? And carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we're on to item F. 2.1 Administration Report C24-003 Sole Source Procurement, Water and Wastewater Rate Study, and the Water Financial Plan. Over to you, Mr. Plunkett, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just the sole source report to do our water and wastewater rate study and the financial plan. The financial plan is a provincial licensing requirement for water operators. So we need to do that every 5 years. We do have a tendency at the same time to do our water and wastewater rate study to make sure that our rates are enough to cover the operating costs and the future asset replacement costs for the water systems. Typically, they'll give us a 10-year time horizon, but we do it every 5 years because the rates unfortunately do change during that time. The reason we're sole sourcing it is there's only a couple of companies that do the water and wastewater rate studies, similar to development charges study. They do have all of our historical information, and we do think it's quite a fair proposal as well. And there is a plan. I know one of the questions was about the water and wastewater rate study. So they will come in, they'll do a council session. So you'll be able to ask a lot of questions. They'll do a educational piece of how it works, and then it'll give you an opportunity to ask about different ways to structure rates as well. So we will do that as part of the process.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, looking at Member Cox, please.
Through the chair to Andrew or Derek. This could be fairly scary because when I'm reading about different municipalities looking at the costs, like Victoria Harbor, 21 million, Collingwood was 200 and some million. It just seems that it's going to be a hard hit to the users if we're trying to base these rates to help us pay for future. And it just kind of scares me that this is where the, I call it the roulette wheel of did you get a funding from a grant or not comes in. And once again, this is the lack of sustainable funding from our provincial government that says this is how much you can get each year and we'll help you with this, which they used to do. There was always that funding. So I'm not sure if when we talk to Watson, they can explain it to me, but I just get a little leery on what our costs could be and what we're burdening our users to help try to pay for it. Or I may be all wrong on it, but it just, I worry about that.
Yeah, through the chair, for sure. We also see, from most recent development charge study that there are a number of large projects in the works and have pretty major contributions from DCs. And there are contributions from the rate as well. So that will be reflected in there, but it's not to the same tune. Most of the growth projects have a stiff or a very high number percentage of growth allocation. So it comes right from DC. And then there is a small part of renewal that is funded, and that's in the breakout of the DC chart where it says benefit to existing and then benefit to specifically for growth. But that'll all be shared in the setting of the rates and shown when we do the work with Watson's.
Supplemental, thank you. It's just that the costs have blown up so much, even in the last 5 years. Like they've probably tripled. I could be wrong, but it's just very ominous for all of us to look at that and wonder how we're going to afford it. But thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, may I have a motion, please?
Certainly, the motion reads that Administration Report number C24-003 dated September 25th, 2024, regarding a sole source procurement, water and wastewater rate study and water financial plan be received, and that council approves the sole source procurement of the water and wastewater rate study and water financial plan project to Watson and Associates Economists Limited in a cost of $38,420 plus HST to be included in the 2025 budget.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Moved by Member Cox, seconded by Member Taylor. All in favor and carried. Thank you very much. We're on item F 3.1, Administration Report number A24-029, Business Milestone Policy, and I welcome Becky Breeden to our meeting.
Thank you to the chair. Through you, this is just a report requesting that you approve the establishment of a business milestone policy to support the mayor, deputy mayor, and yourselves members and township staff as we navigate the approval process for special events involving business communities such as grand openings, re-grand openings, anniversaries, and retirements. So happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Member Cox and then Member Brennan.
Yep, through the chair to Becky. Thank you very much for this. This will be very, very helpful for us. We've run into some snags before, so this clarifies all that. I'm very happy to see that we're looking at this because I do know when I was on the BIA, we had a whole discussion on how do we recognize, who do we recognize, is there a precedent? So this clarifies it all. I just wanted to thank you very much for this report.
Thank you, Member Brennan.
Yes, this has no impact then on non-business things like church attendance and things like that, anniversaries for various non-business entities.
Through the chair, this does not affect any personal events. So if a business owner is having a personal anniversary or you want to attend church, no, it does not have any effect on that. It's only on business related events.
Thank you.
Member Jansen?
Thank you, Ms. Breeden, for putting this together. I think it's a great idea. I'm just wondering, and this came up on the BIA, and that's why I bring it up. I'm just wondering if there should be something for if there was a business leader in our community that passed, any recognition there, or a policy, flowers in lieu of, something along those lines that should be mentioned as well. Again, it's something that came up in the BIA, and we didn't have any sort of policy for it, so the opportunity kind of was missed.
I'm not sorry, through the chair. I'm not sure in those situations if we actually would need to have it in a policy or if it's just something that we would do, but I believe there may be a policy in place and the CAO would be able to provide more details.
Thank you. Over to our CAO.
Thank you. I think it's a great point, but probably not the right avenue. So typically in that venue, the township does sound, we try not to send flowers, we try to do donations, but typically someone of stature in the community has passed. The mayor or the deputy mayor let us know and we take care of that. And then we have our flag lowering and raising policy as well. So I think something important to do for sure. I'm just not sure it fits in this particular policy.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the response.
Okay, Member Cox, please.
Yeah, through the chair to Member Jens, I think that might be something that would be a BIA policy. Only because you're the only business improvement association we have it in the township, and unfortunately we'd never know how many other businesses had someone pass, but being in that close proximity that you have with the businesses in Coldwater, I think that might be the place to have that.
Thank you. Do we have a motion, please?
We do. The motion reads that Administration Report number A24-029 dated September 25th, 2024 regarding a business milestone policy be received, and further that the business milestone policy be established in accordance with Schedule 1.
Thank you. Moved by Member Burkett, seconded by Member Jansen. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Our next item, item F 3.2, Administration Report number A24-030, Film Policy for Municipal Property and Downtown Coldwater. Back to you, Becky, please.
Through you to the chair, to the committee. This policy, we as staff are requesting permission to undertake the development of a film policy for municipal property only and downtown Coldwater, so the main street of Coldwater. Ontario Creates is an agency run by the provincial government that has a secured inventory for film scouts to look at opportunities locally. Currently, except for the mill, we do not have any properties listed on this. So this is an opportunity for us to possibly get some filming opportunities. The film industry is actually provided incentives if they film outside of the Greater Toronto area. So there are additional opportunities to hopefully attract them to this area. In this report, we would also be working, if approved, we would also work with the Coldwater BIA to determine how we could develop a policy that would not affect their businesses if a downtown was ever possibly rented, I guess would be the word we would use.
Thank you very much. Over to Member Cox, please.
Sorry, through the chair to Becky. Would it be possible if we put Washago in? Because when you look at the downtown part of Washago, they've got some very unique things with their art gallery and their little rivers and things. And I know the municipal property would cover the Centennial Park, but I think it's a quaint downtown core also with the rivers running around it. Yeah, the train will be going through. But anyway, I just wondered if we could maybe add that in. Thank you.
Sorry, over to Member Jansen, please.
Thank you, Ms. Breeden. I think this is a great idea. I spend a lot of time as I have family up in North Bay. They've got film crews there all the time downtown. A lot of Hallmark Christmas movies taking place. I think adding Washego is a great idea. Both of these downtown locations in our community are idyllic and would make a great backdrop for a film or TV show. I definitely support this initiative.
Thank you. Over to Member Burkett and then Member Brennan.
Thank you through Madam Chair. Also, I don't know whether we can, Becky, but Washego has, I don't know if it's 5 or 6 dams where all the water that flows from Lake Simcoe through Cooch has to go through Washego to end up in Georgian Bay. But there's that, the park that Member Cox mentioned. I don't know if that's something we can also put in there, but yeah, Washego is quite a little hub with a lot of things going on, but I'm not sure, again, if we can use Parks Canada. There's the Black and the Green River, and you can see the actual color change when you arrive at that point, but I'll just leave you with those thoughts. Century Homes and Churches, as Member McIntyre said.
Thank you. Member Brennan?
Yeah, I think this is great foresight here. Back in the day when I was working on the York Region Forest, we used to allow shooting of the littlest hobo on one of our properties. And it was great fun. It really was. Except when they were shooting, it was the most inconvenient thing in the whole world. They were plugging into the little house that we had there. Electricity was at a premium. Walkers were almost assassinated when they were shooting scenes for making noise. All in all, it as much fun as it was to have the little dogs there, and there were more than one. It can be quite disruptive, and I think the idea of having, but it's great. Don't get me wrong, but to have a policy in place and to anticipate those things, particularly in business communities, is a wise idea.
Thank you. Yeah, my comments are that I absolutely support this, but I would like to have the subject and the policy amended to not specifically talk about downtown Coldwater, just for the reasons anywhere in the township. Certainly in your application or advertisements, for lack of better words, of this, there are so many wonderful things. The Trent Severn River is a gem. There's a trestle bridge on there. There's swing bridges. And there are other places other than specific downtown cores. I think they should be included, but I would not like to see it restricted. It feels restrictive when I'm reading it, and I'm just wondering, perhaps there's an intent, and that's what the industry is looking for downtown. So if you could just let me know.
To the chair, what we were intending with the policy was, the first part is that we can only promote municipal property, so property that we actually have control over. So anything that is in Parks Canada or Parks Ontario or on private property, we cannot actually regulate. As long as they're not using our roadway in any sense, we cannot control it. So if a private property or a church wants to rent out their own space, and as long as they're not using any part of the town property, they are free to do that. Part of the policy will be that we will hopefully promote the opportunities to our local churches. From a previous municipality I worked in, many of our churches were actually rented out for movies. So there could be an opportunity there. Back to your specific question. My regard to having Coldwater was more that they are an association that, and they are a very small grouped area. And that my hope is that using them as the association, we could really form policy that could be used in Washego. It's just that Washego does not actually have an official association that we could speak to get their input for a policy. And that my hope would be that Washego's businesses would feel the same as Coldwater's about any potential shutdowns or fees that we create associated with the program.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I still feel that by specifically naming Coldwater, it by default eliminates or doesn't consider Washego. So thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
So
Oh, sorry. Oh, over to Member Cox.
I think we asked to have Washego put on.
yeah, so just by point of clarification, so the second paragraph in the motion based on council's direction would be amended. So I'll read it out and then council can give me and staff.
Yes, thank you for the motion, please.
The motion reads that Administration Report number 824-030 dated September 25th, 2024 regarding a film policy for municipal property in downtown Coldwater be received, and the staff be directed to develop a film policy for municipal property throughout the township, and further that staff consult with the Coldwater Business Improvement Association, BIA, on sections of the policy related to the downtown core.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Sorry. Okay, we have a question, Member Cox.
So we're not mentioning Washego? Or did I miss it?
Through you, Madam Chair, we've broadened it to include just
okay, sorry, I missed it.
township property
reading.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking for a mover. Moved by Member Taylor, seconded by Member Brennan, all in favor. And carried. Thank you very much. Okay, we have one more item, F 3.3 Administration Report number A24-031 Economic Development Advisory Committee Terms of Reference. Over to you, Becky.
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you. The Economic Development Strategy 2024 recommended in strategy priority number 1 to establish a Economic Development Advisory Committee. This report is the terms of reference that have been developed. We've consulted with several municipalities in the area to come up with what we feel is the best policy available.
Thank you. Any discussion? Member Taylor, please.
Yeah, through the chair to Becky, I think it's a great idea and I support it.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Thank you. The motion reads that Administration Report number A24-031 dated September 25th, 2024 regarding Economic Development Advisory Committee Terms of Reference be received, and further that the Economic Development Advisory Committee Terms of Reference be approved, and further that the council procedural bylaw be amended to include the terms of reference, and further that staff undertake a public recruitment process for the membership as outlined in Schedule 1, and that a list of committee candidates be brought forward in January 2025 for review and selection by council.
Thank you. A mover moved by Member Jansen, seconded by Member McIntyre. All in favor and carried. Thank you. We're on to agenda item G, new business. So to the clerk, are you speaking to both of these? Thank you. So G.1, Coldwater BIA, Sonia Scaper resignation. Over to you, please.
Thank you. This is a formality. So before the BIA can fill the vacancy, this will be the second. Then council just needs to accept it. So we have a motion to accept the resignation with thanks and extend thanks for their work. Member Jansen may want to speak to it, but the intent is that they have their AGM coming up in October, and that nominations are currently open to fill the existing vacancy and this one that will be coming forward as well.
Thank you very much, Member Jansen.
Thank you. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank Ms. Shaper for her time on the BIA. It's been extremely valuable. She's an excellent communicator and has done a great job with messaging from the BIA, as well as doing all of our flyer designs. I think in the letter, she does talk about remaining on in a smaller capacity. I can tell you we are going to take her up on that offer. So thank you, Ms. Shaper. Very much appreciated for all your help, and wishing you all the best in your future.
Thank you. May I have a motion read?
Thank you. So the motion reads that council accepts the resignation of Sonia Shaper from the Coldwater BIA board with regret and extends their thanks for her work on the board.
Thank you. Moved by Member Brennan, seconded by Member Cox. All in favor and carried. Thank you. Item G.2, Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility nominations for 2024 Ontario Senior Achievement Award. I would like to ask our clerk to speak to this item.
Certainly. So this is an annual item that is now coming forward. So just looking for a name that would be put forward. Again, they have to be over the age of 65. I believe they also still have to be alive for most of the awards. No, it's not something that can be done in memoriam. So that they can be invited to the annual awards recognition by the province. So
thank you. And is there a timeline that you need this name by?
I need the name today because deadline is October 1st.
Thank you. Member McIntyre.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to nominate a member of the Oswego Events Committee, Kathy Westcott, who is also, she secretaries our any event that we have, including our Canada Day Parade and our Christmas Parade, and along with the fact that she's very instrumental in what she does in terms of the Horticulture Society. And in general, she's available most of the time. I would say not all the time because I'm not always there, but most of the time for any event and anything that occurs in Oswego. Kathy Westcott is exemplary in her attendance to these meetings, and along with the fact that she does the secretarial work and a great deal of follow-up on. It's not easy to pull off some of these events that she's involved in, and she does all the follow-up. I would be remiss if I didn't say that Kathy is a really good citizen, and I would like to nominate her for this award.
Thank you very much. Any other names from committee members? Member Cox?
I don't have another name, but I just have a question through the chair to the clerk. This is lovely, but I would have rather been able to nominate like a club or something. So where are we? And I probably should know this. Where are we with when we as Severn can recognize our volunteers and our groups so we can put forward their names? And I know we used to do it beginning of a term, but we haven't done it for a while. So I just wondered where we're at.
To our CAO, please.
I don't know the exact answer through the chair. I don't know the exact answer to that, but Michelle and I have been starting a conversation about that she was going to loop you into. So we have to.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, through the chair, may I ask? I 100% support Councillor McIntyre's assessment of Mrs. Westcott, but didn't we do her 1 year? Council wanted to do Mr. Westcott, and that was where the posthumous came in. And I feel like that year, I'm not 100% sure. I think Allison is searching, but I feel like we may have done her before. Not to say you can't do it again, but I am.
Singling Kathy out, and I fully support Member McIntyre's choice.
I think what happened is we wanted to do Dawn, but we couldn't because he was passed away. And I think then we moved on to someone else. Sorry, but you're right. I think the discussion was there. You're right. And she also is very active in the Ramera Historical Society.
Go ahead, Sue.
Michelle is watching and she said we did not. We did have that discussion about Dawn for sure, but
okay, thank you. Do we have a motion, please?
Certainly. The motion reads that Kathy Westcott be nominated for the 2024 Senior Achievement Award.
Thank you. Moved by Member McIntyre, seconded by Member Cox. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Are we going to our...
Excuse me. Just to is now is that's public? Is this the end of that? I mean, that nomination has been accepted, and now if we hear from Mrs. Westcott, can we tell her that she's been this has taken place in her behalf?
Once I will reach out to Ms. Westcott. Normally my process is after the meeting. I'll reach out to them to let them know they've been awarded it, and then after that, you're welcome to reach out to her too, as many as you want.
Hi, so I'm looking to our clerk. So we're going to the consent agenda items that were pulled.
Yes, so we have items D 1.3, D 2.1, and D 2.2.
Okay, we'll start with D 1.3, building report for the month of July 2024, and that was pulled by member Taylor.
Yes, through the chair, maybe to Lori or Andrew or Allison. So I'm just looking at the numbers there and reading over the last 3 months mentioned there. And so I'm looking at the one for June, the end of June 24. So we're behind 2023. And I'm surprised that the numbers don't seem to reflect reality. And maybe you can make it real for me.
Thank you. Over to the CEO.
Yes. Thank you for your question, and thank you for telling us in advance, because as soon as I saw what you pulled, I immediately knew what your question would be, and that helped me research, because we couldn't have the CBO here today. We are definitely behind last year's numbers, and that's typical across Ontario, given the interest rates. We had a very, very big year, an unusually high year last year, and it's lower this year. However, we budgeted to what we expected, and we expect to be very close to our budget by the end of the year. July was a bit low, but they had a huge month in August with townhouses in Turnbull and Greenwood Landing. So I went over the numbers with the CBO yesterday, and he's quite confident that he will hit his budget targets for the year, which is definitely less than last year.
Just as a follow-up, I think in one of the reports, our average homes were 80 a year or something, and it may average out to be 100 a year. So is that what we're looking at? Like, it's hard to differentiate where the actual new homes end up on here, but I realize it's building permits, etc. So that was my question. I know this is up to the end of June, and I was hoping to hear what you said, that because I see what's going on, and it doesn't. There's a lot of homes going up, and it's not reflective in the report. But I think you've answered my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we need a motion? Or
thank you. It's just a motion to receive the report for information.
And we're doing that for each one?
No, only the one item was pulled, so it's only the one report that needs to be dealt with. So the motion reads that the building report for the month of July 2024 be received for information.
Thank you. Moved by member Brennan, seconded by member Jansen. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. So I thought item D 2. There were other items pulled.
D 2.1. It's the motion from Tay Valley with respect to the jurisdiction of the Ontario Ombudsman.
Thank you. And that was pulled by member Cox. Over to you.
Through the chair. This is, I agree with this, because what happens is the Ombudsman puts out numbers, and it could say Severn Township had 15 cases and they weren't investigated, or we don't know what happened with them. And it makes us look like we've got some big issue. And I think that this is saying we need to, if we want to ask, but I'd like to refer it back to the CAO to speak on it, because she had spoken to me about it.
Thank you. Over to the CAO, please.
Thank you, through the chair. This is one of my favorite soapboxes, because when I was in my last municipality, we had lots of ombudsman's complaints, but very few ever generated an actual investigation, which means that they were investigated. But I think if you call and ask about anything, it doesn't necessarily have to do with something that's within the jurisdiction of Severn. They say, oh, you're from Severn, we're going to add it to our stats. And I think that's very unfair to the municipality. I agree with the motion that Tay Valley put forward. If they're going to record us on their stats, then they should tell us what they're about, because if there's an issue, even if it doesn't materialize to anything that they want to investigate, we should know about it so we can correct it. And if they're not going to investigate it, and it's not related to the township, they shouldn't be using it for their stats. But I didn't have any success in that argument before, but I'm pretty passionate about it.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion, please?
Certainly, the motion reads that the Council for the Township of Severn supports the resolution of Tay Valley Township regarding the jurisdiction of the Ontario Ombudsman.
Moved by member Cox, seconded by member Burkett. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. next correspondence item that was pulled also, Member Cox, D 2.2 Township of Russell Resolution re-support AMCTO for provincial updates to Municipal Elections Act.
Through the chair, when I saw this, I was curious about it, and I did call the clerk about it, and we talked, and I said I would bring this forward because I did agree, but if the clerk would like to speak to it, that would be fine, and just sort of summarize. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to the clerk.
Thank you. So this has been a long work in progress for AMCTO, which is the association that represents all clerks and treasurers and municipal managers through the province. This is the full document if anyone wants to read it or peruse it. There's quite a number of recommendations in there, but the intent is to modernize municipal elections. The act as a whole has not been completely looked at in 30 years. Clearly, the times have changed over the last 30 years with respect to voting, financial requirements, and every time the province goes to amend the act, they do it in bits, and there's no comprehensive review of the act. So we have sections that fight each other. We have references to other pieces of legislation like the Education Act, the Municipal Act, the Assessment Act that are out of date. Some of the stuff they're looking to get is the nomination date moved, removal of the required signatures for nominations, streamlining the financial reporting requirements, streamlining the third party advertising requirements, and just trying to modernize this legislation to get provincial legislative standards for voting across the board, that type of stuff. So it's been a work in progress with AMCTO and a very dedicated group of clerks from across the province for about going on 5-6 years now. And their final report just came out and they're seeking support.
Thank you. Do I have a motion, please?
The motion reads that the Council for the Township of Severn supports the resolution from the Township of Russell and calls on the province to update the Municipal Elections Act with priority amendments as outlined by AMCTO before summer 2025 and commence work to review and rewrite the MEA, just Municipal Elections Act, with longer term recommendations ahead of the 2030 elections.
Thank you. Moved by Member Jansen, seconded by Member Brennan. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Agenda item H are committee member updates. We'll start with Member Taylor, please, for Ward 1.
Oh, sorry, I'll start over again. I'm going to talk about Severn Sound Development Association. Our next quarterly meeting is October 24th. And one of the issues there is that the Township of Georgian Bay has passed a motion that they want to leave the association the end of 2025. So it's very serious. Coldwater Mill, we had our AGM last Thursday, and it was mentioned earlier there, great representation by the mayor, deputy mayor, and Becky. And I think Keith provided a pretty good outlook what we did last year and going forward. And finally, on October the 19th, Severn Falls is having the end of summer celebration in Severn Falls. So it's on the 19th. I think it's at 1 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Over to Member Jansen, Ward 2, please.
Thank you very much. I participate on 2 committees, SegBay and the BIA, Coldwater BIA. SegBay is going very strong. They've hired a new staff member to assist with the manager. A week or so ago, we provided a donation to the Coldwater Food Bank. They've got an Oktoberfest festival that's going on between SegBay as well as in Muskoka Tourism. There's a kickoff event happening at Christie's Mill at 3:00 p.m. on October the 21st, 2024. For the Coldwater BIA, we've got a few events coming up. Of course, the Witches Walk is taking place on October the 18th. Always a great night. The very next day, we've got Trick or Treat Main Street, which is an event geared more towards the kids. That'll be happening October the 19th. Our annual general meeting is coming up on October the 22nd at the Coldwater Recreational Center. And we've got our Christmas tree lighting event coming up on November the 23rd, 2024. I'd also like to let members in the community know that I will be taking part in OMA's ride this weekend on Sunday. It benefits the Alzheimer's Society. It's a 20K, 50K, and 100K bike ride that starts at Quail's Brewery and will go through Oro-Medonte and Severn. I'm taking part in the 20K. I'm ambitious, just not that ambitious. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Over to Member Brennan, Ward 3, please.
Just through the chair, was a question from the deputy on one of the reports? Just wondering if we could just. I don't know if you heard.
Okay, Member Cox.
Yeah, through the chair to Member Taylor. Didn't at that meeting they agree to what we asked for the report? You know, for like to have a consultant to relook at the financial, how we all are.
Yeah, that's coming forward with the Severn Sound. We're waiting to see what is involved with a third party to look at the costing for all the municipalities. Yeah, so that's on the list as well. But this being one of 8 municipalities, probably it's going to throw a curveball in there as well. But you're correct. Thank you.
Okay, Member Brennan.
Yeah, thank you, the chair. Yeah, so 3 reports. Met bright and early yesterday at the chamber. They love to meet at 7:30 in the morning. And they should supply breakfast. It'd be great. But anyway, the CDD introduced our new general manager, Jim Fitzgerald. Of note in his comments, there is a community capacity building fund that is funded by the feds. And it's open for applications until October 21st and grants up to $3,000 for approved applicants, funding to support innovative and incremental projects that build capacity and facilitate growth in the applicant's organization. So this is directed to businesses. This is good money, and he's anxious for people to contact him to discuss details and possibilities. The Carmen Stampo advised that they're still working on site selection for the hospital. He didn't give us any hints as to where he's going, but he did say they're working on it. You all may recall the Island Princess. It has now gone to Barrie. It's hopefully going to float better there. Lakehead University advised that it is working with an organization called Shared Spaces. And that organization is matching students to landlords for housing. So you may hear about it relative to our proximity to the university. Apparently, they're really doing some good work there and helping out all kinds of students and also landlords and seniors that have a bit of room in their homes and would like somebody coming and going. The chamber is in the process of renegotiating its contract for managing the Port of Orillia. This chamber depends on, it's not like some independent chambers like the bigger ones down south. It depends on revenue from these types of things. So that's in the process. They're also in the process of negotiating with the province on their role in the Service Ontario work that they do. They're quite concerned that the counteroffer they will get from the province on the Service Ontario thing will be a Staples type deal, which basically involves minimum wage work, and they can't afford to maintain the contract if that's the way it's going to be. So we'll stay tuned. Early Agriculture and District Society met Monday night. There was a screw up when Becky tried to contact the organization. I am facilitating that, fixing that. The president is quite anxious to meet with Becky and really looking forward to working with her. The roller rink is back on. It's off for the summer. So that's one of the big revenue generators for the society. But the busiest month of the year is coming now for the October Fall Fair from the 18th to the 20th. That will run coincident with the Halloween Haunt, which runs the 11th, 12th, 16th to 19th, 23rd to 27th. Basically, Otis Park's director corps are the prime volunteers, other than their students are brought in for these big events. We're going to be pretty tired by the end of October. We got tons of hours to put in to pull this off. That fair is going to be, we're hoping the weather cooperates. There's going to be a midway, first time ever. Shouldn't be competing with any other fairs. We're hoping it's going to be a big deal. There's petting animals and you name it, all coming on board. So we're hoping that local families come to enjoy that, and that is a colossal success. And of course, if you are engineer oriented and you want to enter the pumpkin toss and create your own caliput, go ahead and do it. And yeah, because I think there's 4 entries and they don't want any more than 10. So that will be an interesting event, apparently. And I can't wait to see how that goes down. Okay, the final report is on the Aurelian Lake Country physician recruitment. We met last Thursday. We discussed the urgent need for Severn and Oro-Medonte to continue funding the physician program to $2 per head. We'll be dealing with that later. One of the challenges they have is we had a reduced cost for the recruiter in previous years. The recruiter actually was a super good deal. And I understand there was some help from the hospital back in those days too. Now we don't have any of that covered. So there's added pressure, and the recruiter is critical to this organization working. We are trying to avoid covering the costs of other incentives that other jurisdictions are doing. Some are paying, for instance, $40,000 to physicians who move to their areas. We just can't play that game. So we are trying, they're going to look into things like other incentives, like trying to secure non-interest loans for some of these and so forth. So that's ongoing. Want to note, because a lot of people, Romera, is not contributing, but there's something about that I think this council should know. Romera is running what they call a Good Doctor program, which is a virtual medicine program. That's costing Romera $140,000 a year. And it's one of the reasons they probably don't contribute to the physician recruitment for this area. I know the doctors feel that it's good for one-offs, but it doesn't replace family physician requirements. But that's a lot of coin, I think, for Romera to be paying. And so we learned that another family practice is closing this week, unfortunately. So we're treading water on this. And we're happy to have Dr. Minnings on board as a recruit. I wanted to mention that, and also 2 Australian doctors coming on board. So that's pretty exciting. On Monday, they were recruiting at McMaster University. Oh, yes, this past Monday, they were at McMaster University, and they are soon going to Ireland and the UK. My understanding of this is, of course, we have to cover the main recruiter's expenses, but doctors are attending. They're covering this, as I understand it, with their own costs to go to these recruitment efforts. So kudos to these medical professionals. We're of course going there, ironically, to get Canadians, but we'll take people from anywhere we can get them. So we sell our lifestyle, but there are barriers. Childcare is an issue for some of the recruits. Complications with real estate referrals are an issue. Maybe I can talk to Jim about that. He can help me out. You can't just recommend a certain individual. And no organization can. Usually organizations will apply lists. Barry actually cycles through a list. That's how they deal with it. But if you don't have good real estate agents on that list, it can be not great for your recruiting effort. We have U of T family training in that program. Now we have 2 students now. We're going to have 4 students in 2025 and 8 in 2026. Barry has 10, and they have a 60% retention rate. So that's a great program. And then as a final bit, I want to warn Dan that I'll be with the physician recruitment people on Saturday at your Coldwater Fair, selling tickets, basically to raise money for student recruitment. And I will be working with Megan Dunlop of Hospice Aurelia and Amanda Tabald of Hospice Aurelia. Therein is my report.
Thank you very much. I will do my update now for Ward 4. The Aurelia Public Library, of which I'm a board member, continues to be a hub of activity. And again, as a Severn resident, I'm so happy to be able to have full library privileges, as all of you are. The library is now open Sundays again through to the end of June. Statistically, 1,465 Severn residents are members, and with a total in Severn of 8,808 books and items checked out by Severn residents. So great participation rates there. I will forward the most recent board package in full to the clerk after this meeting. We conducted a board evaluation over the summer and a CEO evaluation, which resulted in the recent last week permanent appointment of Megan Wilkinson as the Aurelia Library CEO. And that's great to see. I'm just going to go through this quickly. Deputy Mayor Cox will speak to the Culture and Recreation Advisory Committee, which happened earlier this month. A couple events. Saturday, September 21st, I participated in the Cumberland Beach Ratepayers Association fundraising euchre tournament and wanted to thank everyone on council and in the township who came out to support the afternoon, as well as promote it and support it. And thanks to Member Taylor for sharing the Match-A-Dash how to do a euchre tournament guidebook. It really worked. And the target was $1,000, which was a very sort of a big number for the group, but we raised over $1,700 in 2 hours. And that association is very grateful because, as you know, kids and families in Cumberland Beach use that waterfront park throughout the year. So it's great. The following day, last Sunday, the Hope Community Church in Cumberland Beach opened its doors again to the community and had the best fall fest yet. Hundreds and hundreds of kids and families, old and young, spent the day on their grounds, free food, free activities, etc. So just great community engagement and building there on both counts. September 28th, I know it's in Ward 5. However, I am a member of the church in Washego, and on this Saturday, they're having their annual fall bazaar open to the community, hosted by the ladies of the church. And if you have eaten anything that they put out during the Canada Day parade, etc. in Washego, you know it's always a sellout, delicious food, great bake sales, etc. So any support given to all of these worthwhile volunteer and community groups is appreciated. Thank you. Over to Member McIntyre, please, for Ward 5.
CC Church. I don't have to speak to that now. You just did. My report's very brief. The Washego Events Committee will be having holding a meeting late October to determine how we're going to attack the Christmas parade. We don't have a definite date, but that'll be determined, and we do.
It's always the second Saturday.
I've been there a long time. I just didn't know that. Thank you. So I'm just making a point that October the 14th, we'll be having a meeting at Washego Community Center, 5:30, as usual, to determine the Christmas parade. So other than that, the bazaar you got, Wanda, that's my report.
Thank you, and sorry about that. Over to Deputy Mayor Cox.
So at the county, there's a new medical priority dispatch, and our communication, Tracy, will be sent the information. It starts November 13th. What this means is, and I'm going to send out the presentation to you, is that now if you have a call and it's a person who fell and they think they broke their ankle and the ambulance is on the way there and they get a heart attack call in, that ambulance has to continue on to the suspected broken leg. Now what will happen, it will be high priority. So if that ambulance is on the way to a suspected broken leg and a heart attack comes in, that's high priority. It moves and it goes to the high priority. This will decrease costs. Not just cost, it will increase the fact that we're getting to the high priority ones faster. It will not affect anybody else they're just going to be in line. And when the dispatch will talk to a person, they will speak to them, ask them how that ankle is there anything different? And they will continue to go back and forth with them if something more serious happens, then a high priority will go there. This is a dispatch that has been used in countries all over the world. It is now coming to the county of Simcoe, and they're very excited about it because they said it will make everything more efficient and people will be looked after better. I think I already mentioned that they had the mental health program priority, which means if they get a call and the person is in mental health distress, they just don't take them to the closest hospital. They take them to a place or a hospital where they can get the mental health help. So a lot of times it may be Waypoint or places for that. We got base funding, which means we get permanent funding for the behavioral specialized unit at Georgian Manor, 16 beds. The GM Sinclair said, I asked her, and the behavioral issues in elderly with dementia, Alzheimer's, all the different things is on the increase. They've got 16 beds they finally got permanent funding for in Georgia. And the county also has 35 people who go around to all the long-term care homes to help the staff with these types of residents, which is a very hard thing to do. And it's very disruptive. And it's very hard for families to find a spot to have their families looked after. They're also applying to the province. There's a new place in Beaton going in, and they're applying to get specialized behavioral beds there also. The provincial planning statement, I will send that out to you also because the county did go through it all and they gave us a very good PowerPoint. The interesting part of that was they're very concerned about septage. And there was a 2016 report done, and now they're worried that there could be more rural building because of the fact the province has backed away from it. But it's not just that. And I spoke to CEO Aiken about it, that this is a concern for everyone. So they've hired a consultant to relook at the 2016 septage study, and they will be contacting Derek and all the different municipalities to discuss this because they finally realized that it will be and is already a serious issue we have. The other one was, Tiny Township now has their own approval authority for plans of subdivision and condominium. So we're the only one left with the county. But that's okay, then we can get it done quick. There's a letter from Springwater, and they wrote to the Ministry of Culture and what's it called? The Ministry of Growth and, remember when they had the Growth and Economic Viability ADCOT committee and no one knew about it? Sorry, who's ever listening. A lot of people didn't know about it. Anyway, they have sent a letter and said, we need to have to provide regular communication to the represented municipalities, specifically relating to the Standing Committee on Heritage, Infrastructure, Cultural Policy regarding study of regional governments, as well as other provincial and federal processes. I would like to have this put on one of our agendas because I think it's very important. I know in the past, Member Burkett has said that they asked them to come to the county, the different MPPs and MP, and we haven't really had any success in that. And I think it's good to keep our levels of government all together, and so we can all discuss things. The other one I have is the library. It's exciting. Our total of things that were taken out was 5,161 in July and 4,784 in August. That's one of our highest ones. That library now has, the reading club was full. So next year they're going to have a morning and afternoon one. They have an art club and a yarn club meeting at the library. They got new shelves and they've reorged the whole front part. It's very organized now and tidy. We're having more local authors attending. There's a sad part to this one I'm going to talk about. We had to come up with a client conduct policy and a trespassing policy due to behavioral issues at the library. We've never had to do that, and and I was worried, and I spoke to the chief librarian about it, that maybe we shouldn't have just one person there all the time by themselves later, because we've had a few people come in and it's very scary. And some of them have some illnesses, and we're looking into making sure that everybody's safe at the library. which is other libraries have seen it long before us, and we just never thought we would have that issue. I go to my first police services board meeting on October 3rd, and the other one is the recreation committee. And it was, you can look it up. It's a culture and recreation advisory committee. The new program coordinator has all types of new programs they're working on. There'll be Jump Fit for Kids. The public skating will begin on October 8th. Shuffleboard's returning. They're having a Halloween themed PA Day camp held in Coldwater, run by Kelsey the Jump Fit. There's 2 Halloween programs also. There's going to be one in Washego with the art club, and they're going to create a fun Halloween themed craft, and the other will be creating an edible haunted house on October 27th at the Coldwater Community Center. So the recreation is very busy, and it's very exciting again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Over to Member Burkett, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. And just to follow Member Cox's discussion about the MPDS rollout, paramedics attended 96,000 calls last year. And there was part of the budget process, there was some extra money that wasn't that was spent that wasn't budgeted for. And in hopes of trying to streamline, and as she said, there's going to be a purple, red, orange, yellow, and green sequence that when you do call in, that they will categorize that person into. But we have someone right here in our building that's well versed in this, because it was in Niagara Falls. So I spoke to our chief this morning, and he knows all about it and knows how it works. So if there's any interest for any member of council to know how this works, he's happy to speak to us about it. But I'm just excited about this and the cost savings, and the fact that we'll be able, if there's a heart attack victim, they're going to get to that person quicker. It'll be implemented on November the 13th. We're going to start budget process in October, and we're at almost $700 million at the county level. It's a huge budget. And the only other thing, Member Cox spoke about the other thing, but the other thing that we went to yesterday, which was quite exciting. So there's a gentleman that left almost $5 million to the Simcoe County Museum, which is a huge, and was a frequent attendee at the museum, and no one knew that he was going to leave this type of money. But the museum is quite a gem. I don't know if any of us have been able to come. I took another tour through it, and it mesmerized me. But they had an old steam shovel outside that was smoking. I thought, no way. So out we went, and that's where that's what they used to dig the groundbreaking, which is amazing to watch the 2 gentlemen that look after this machine and actually dig the hole. But what a gem, again, to have right in here, right in our own county, something like that. They're looking at a $16 million building, and it's just beautiful for all to enjoy. Those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Member Cox.
Just quickly for Andrew, there was a $300,000 deficit at the county, and I think it had to do with investment and something else, but I'm not quite sure. But the other one in paramedics, the other one is the tax levy increase is suggested to be 2% to support asset management and 1.5 to 2.5 to support existing services and level. So we're looking at a 4% increase be modeled, and they're going to also come up with a 4.5 and a 3.5 to see where we're going to be at. And I can leave this with you if you'd like, Andrew, this report. Thank you.
Yes, Member Brennan.
Yeah, I just would like to follow up on the comment from Member Burkett. I would love to hear that presentation. I would really like that. If we can.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair. We'll have to arrange that with the chief, fire chief.
Yeah. To our CAO, please.
I'm happy to do that, but I think it might be more appropriate for the county to give it to. Like the chief is going to tell you what his experience is in Niagara Falls, and the county may be interested in explaining their new program themselves. I think that might be more appropriate.
You, Madam Chair, they are going to forward us all the presentation, and if there's something in there that you would like to see more of, I can ask at the counter. Both Member Cox and myself can ask if we can have a presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Over to our CEO, Lori Kennard, for her update, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, just a couple of quick things. Firstly, on behalf of staff, thank you for your appreciation gifts this morning. Staff were very pleased by it. I think a few years ago, council directed to do 2 appreciation events a year, and this summer has just been so crazy busy. I think we didn't get to it, so I wasn't involved, but I think you have 2 very creative elves in your HR department that come up with some amazing ideas. So we thank them for helping you, but staff appreciate your efforts for sure. And the other thing I was reflecting on some of the things that council said, particularly about county and budget and about all the things that we've accomplished. And I was thinking particularly when Becky was talking. So first of all, super grateful to have Becky. She's been here only 2 months. And I think there's very few sort of our major players that she hasn't been out to meet, and so many things that she knows about that we just didn't. So I think that's a fantastic addition. And there was a comment somewhere about, we didn't have this before. So we started 5 years ago, we didn't have communication. So now the mayor gets amazing communication support everywhere he goes. And we have an amazing communication person. We have economic development. We have a recreation programmer. So fantastic initiatives. I just want to put it in your mind that it's going to be a very challenging budget year because we have all of these new things plus huge projects. So West Shore, the admin building, recreation's got all sorts of amazing ideas of things they'd like to do. So I know council's going to have to, it's going to be a la carte, and you're going to have to pick and choose where your priorities go. So we're super excited to have all these initiatives, but they do come at a cost. And I expect that it'll be a fairly difficult budget year. So I just want to plant that seed before we get there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Burkett.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to thank, I can't say their names, but our human resources persons, I know they're for helping me and thank you, council, for being here this morning to distribute those. But we did do the North Yard, Member Cox and myself at 7 a.m. She was late, by the way. I'm standing out in the rain because somebody recognized me and pulled in, and I'm standing out in the rain anyways. And then I did the South Yard and West Shore facility yesterday morning at 7 as well. But I just want to say thank you to, can I mention their names or no? To Michelle and Shannon, because I think it was both Michelle and Shannon, is that correct? That helped put them together. So thank you very much. And there was something else that you did mention, budget and what was coming. And we're a growing municipality. And I know we all are very frugal, but as we're growing, this has never happened, I don't think, in Severn before. We're going to have some tough decisions to make. But if we don't make those decisions, we can't be left, at the back. We're going to have some forward thinking. So I'm looking forward to budget, Andrew. And thank you very much.
Okay, Member Cox.
Yeah, one thing I forgot. At our recreation meeting, Wanda had talked about culture, and we had talked just about this before. But anyway, I will be emailing out from the county. They did a culture 2025 to 2028 consulting. They have a report on it, and so I'll send it out to everyone with some good ideas on that because I'm on the Economic Development Committee.
Good to know. Thank you. And yes, our committee is called Culture and Recreation, and in the year and a half I've been on it, we haven't talked about culture. So I think recreation is ramping up wonderfully. So they're going to start to bring us some culture discussions as a committee. So thank you for that. Just before we move for a closing motion, just wanted to remind everyone that you're invited to join us on Friday for the flag raising here at the Township at 9 a.m. To honor National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and Orange Shirt Day. And we hope to see you there, and you can certainly be in our picture, which would be wonderful. Over to the clerk, please, to adjourn today's corporate services meeting.
So the motion is that this meeting is hereby adjourned at 11:45 a.m.
Thank you. Do I have a mover Moved by member McIntyre, seconded by member Burkett. All in favor? And carried. Thank you. Have a wonderful day and see you at the Coldwater Fall Fair this
Hi, Dan.
weekend.
Have a good day, Dan.
Take care, everyone. Hope to see you this weekend.